So the original Descendants trilogy is there's a school where Beauty and the Beast and their son brought all the Disney characters together to come to school at this kingdom, except not the villains, and they put all the villains in a villain land. And then in this series, the villain children are like being given a chance to come to school for the first time. And then blah 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 3 movies later, now they're all allowed to come to school because Ursula's daughter Uma like fought for their ability to come to school. And then this movie, they were like, okay, what are we gonna do for Descendants 4? I know, just do time travel. So this is a time travel movie. And when I first heard it's a time travel movie, my thought was like, okay, so they can like go back in time to like the first stuff that happened in the first movies. But obviously that actually can't happen when you think about it, because almost none of the original cast is in this movie, so that's out the window. Not even all of the original cast are alive anymore. So there's only 2 members of the original cast that came back. The fairy godmother, who has like 0 scenes, 0 plot relevance, she's just there. And then Uma, who's Ursula's daughter, who is like, she was the villain in the second one, and then she became a good guy in the third one. But she was always just a good guy. They just framed her as a villain. Anywho, our main characters from the last series, who used to lead the school, were being told that they were sent off on a ship. They're going to go find other Disney characters from other distant lands, and they're out of the movie now. But Uma is now in charge of the school. They left her in charge. And she's like, now that I'm in charge, with my commitment to bringing all of the villain children back to come to this school, I'm gonna send a letter inviting the evil Queen of Hearts from Wonderland. I'm inviting her daughter. And then the fairy godmother's like, oh my goodness, you're gonna invite her? Like, that's crazy. Because of course there's yet another group of people that they've been disallowing from coming to the school. So then they're like, don't you know that the Red Queen sent an army from Wonderland to try and conquer us, and then we had to board up the rabbit hole so that they couldn't come conquer us? So that's why we don't mess with them. And then you're like, okay, I guess it's fair enough that they didn't invite them to their school up until this point if they were like an actual hostile entity. Uma's like, we still have to reach out to them. And then they go to a framed picture of the cast member from the original series that died. They're like,
it's what Carlos would have wanted. So don't do it for me. Do it in honor of him.
Which, like, I'm glad they had a scene where they, like, honored the actor that died. But also, like, he didn't care. This was never his thing. We had plenty of characters that fought to get the villain kids into the classes, like King Ben or Uma. But the only thing Cruella de Vil's son did in these movies is, like, eat chocolate, befriend a talking dog. Like, maybe he kind of vaguely stood behind people doing plot-relevant things in agreement with them. But, like, he wasn't like, oh, in his memory, this is what he would have wanted. He didn't have any plot relevance up until this point. None of these characters should care. And then Uma, like, cries, and you're like, okay, I don't think these characters ever shared a single line of dialogue. Like, you can't pretend like this character's so important and plot relevant now, after the fact. It's too late for that now. So unearned. Anyways, that happens, and then we cut to Wonderland, and they're like, the Queen of Hearts, she is very evil, and she off with her head, yada yada, we get the idea. And the biggest rebel against Queen of Hearts, her daughter. And then it cuts to her daughter Red doing a graffiti, and there's like a whole music number, because these movies are musicals, so there's a music number. And then she's like evading the card knights and doing fun dance numbers, and then she escapes back to the Mad Hatter's place. But I don't think it's the Mad Hatter, because he's like, I'm the
Maddox Hatter.
Like his name is like a pun on the Mad Hatter. And most of the Descendants have names that are like derivative of their parents' name. So like the Evil Queen's daughter, her daughter's Evie, so like evil Evie. So maybe he's the Mad Hatter's son. That's never really made very clear. But he's like, hey, Red, cool to see you again. We're friends. This is being established. I just finished something that will totally, possibly fix your life.
My time machine. It takes you to the moment in time that can give you what your heart wants most.
I think I can live with that.
Everything could change. You could lose your mother entirely. It's too dangerous. Not yet. When you're more mature.
Actually, no, I don't think I will. And it's like, wow, way to debate her. Like, I have this thing that will fix your life. Never mind, I'm not gonna give it to you. So rude. So she steals the time device anyways. And then she goes back to her mother. And her mother's disciplining the guard that she evaded. And she's like, so you failed to get the graffitiist. Time to decide your punishment. Actually, my daughter should be the one to decide. What is his punishment gonna be, daughter? And then she's like, off with his hat. And then she takes off his hat and she's like, I'm so disappointed in you, daughter. Try it again. And she's like, no, I don't want to execute him. And then she's like, well, off with his head. And I'm so mad at you now. So her decision didn't matter at all. Her mom just made it so that he was going to get executed no matter what. And then she's like, glad you showed up in court for once, but your outfit is ridiculous. And it's like, in this movie, every character's outfit is like zany and extravagant. So it's like, how do you tell the difference between what is and is not an appropriate outfit? They both look equally as insane. Everything the Red Queen says is like so overdramatic, but which is like, that's usually how the Red Queen is. But she just like doesn't sell it in a believable way at all. So you're just like, oh my god. Like, and every line in this movie is said by someone who can't act and is said like as if it's like a mic drop moment where they're like, everything I do for you, daughter. And you're like, that's not, like, no. Okay, so then the letter, they get the letter from the school inviting them to come to school, and Red, that's the Queen of Hearts' daughter, she's like, I want to go to this school so I can get away from my mother, because she sucks. And then her mother lets her, and she's like, wow, my mom's being cool for once. So they go to the school, and then Cinderella and Prince Charming are also enrolling their daughter, Chloe. And the funny thing is, Cinderella is a black woman in this, and Prince Charming is an Asian guy, and their daughter is like kind of mixed race, so that tracks. But this is the fourth movie, and in the earlier movies, Chad Charming, son of Prince Charming, was already a character, and he was just a white guy. So you're like, wait a second. Why are you white, sir? Why do you have a white son? And they never bring up the fact that they already had a child established in this universe. Like, Cinderella's daughter never says she has a brother or anything like that. So I guess they just adopted a white child for some reason. And it's like, it's a good thing these characters aren't, royals who care very much about having a bloodline. And we already know that they can conceive because their daughter is clearly theirs. So why the fuck do they just have this white child?
Oh my god, Karen, you can't just ask people why they're white.
So that's already amazing. Then we get the Cinderella's daughter meets Queen of Hearts' daughter. So our main characters are meeting. Cinderella's daughter, Chloe, she's like, nice to meet you. I've always wanted to know more about Wonderland. We should go there sometime. And then Red's like, I'll introduce you to the Jabberwocky. And
Fun. What's a Jabberwocky? A monster that eats
and then
annoying
she's like
girls.
all offended by her little tease. Her mom's like, be warned, the Red Queen is kind of crazy. And then she's like, yeah, I know, her daughter's already the worst person I've ever met. And it's like, it's pretty harsh. It was just a pretty light tease. Then Cinderella and the Queen of Hearts do like a song together, but it's not a song. It's just them talking, but like music is playing, so they're talking like rhythmically to the music, like almost like it's a rap, but it's not. It's
Jane, what happened? Is it okay to ask? We came to celebrate the future, sweetie, not dwell on the past.
just them talking rhythmically, and it sounds so bad. Like, it is atrocious how bad it sounds. Definitely the worst thing, not just in this movie, I think it's the worst thing I've ever heard ever. That they established that they used to be friends, but now they're not. Ursula's daughter is like, alright, I'm the new dean of this school, and I'm doing a little speech to welcome you all to the school. And then the Red Queen takes out her deck of cards and throws them, and they transform into her card knights, and the card knights take over, and she's like, I only accepted your invitation so I could come conquer you people, wahaha. And she's like, Mom, how could you? I'm so sad. And everyone's all freaking out. And Cinderella gets up and she's like, we were friends once.
I know that what happened was hard for you, but that was ages ago. It was a stupid prank.
Stupid. I could forgive. Humiliating a girl at her first dance. Turning me into a monster in front of everyone. Now that's just cruel.
You're right.
You didn't care then. You were off with your prince. Oh, but you will now.
So, daughter, what should her punishment be? And then this time, the twist is she's like, the Red's like, off with her head. And we're supposed to think she was wrong for doing that, but like, it was already established to us that if she doesn't say that, her mom will just get mad at her and do it anyways. So obviously she should just say that and then work later to fix the situation from a different angle. Anyways, so Cinderella's gonna get murdered. Red takes out the little time traveling device she got earlier, and she's gonna go back in time. They see that happening, and Cinderella's daughter's like, I'm gonna jump into this situation. And she jumps in, and they both get time traveled back in time. And then they're back in time, and they're like mad at each other, and they have a argument song where they're like, your mom is killing my mom, I hate you. And she's like, I also hate my mom, I'm gonna fight to stop her. And then she's like, I guess we don't have a conflict then, let's work together. And then they're like, okay, we're working together now. And then they're like, where are we? Oh my god, we traveled into time? And they're at the school, but it's 30 years in the past. And she's like, I just wanted to go back far enough so I could stop my mom from summoning all those knights. Why are we 30 years in the past? And it's like, maybe because you have no idea how to use this time machine? But they're like, it must have brought us here on purpose, for a reason. So they go to the school. It's 30 years in the past, so it's not the school that Beauty and the Beast made. It's before that happened. And they're like, here's the old dean of the school, and it's Merlin. And I was like, oh my god, it's Merlin. Like in my Merlin video. We've come full circle. You think Beauty and the Beast are going to be in this movie because it's about before they made the school? They're just not in it. That's weird. All the rest of the characters who we've seen, like the Descendants we've seen throughout the series, we get to see their parents now as children. So that's fun, but we don't get to see Beauty and the Beast for whatever reason. They go and find their own parents in this time travel timeline when they're high schoolers. Cinderella and Prince Charming are like flirting a little bit. He invites her to go to this big dance that's being set up as some big deal. Cinderella is like not with him yet, so she's not like a Princess Cinderella yet. She's just commoner Cinderella. So it's like set up that that dance is gonna be the dance where she does the Cinderella thing. And then they go to class, and Red meets her mom, the Queen of Hearts, as a teenager. And she's like super nice and super bubbly. And she's like, whoa, my mom used to be nice? This is blowing my mind. It's crazy. Chloe's like, I know, my mom isn't at all like what I expected either. She's such a princess when I know her. But I guess now she's like a poor commoner. And it's like, yeah, duh, like this Cinderella. But I guess she didn't know that. So that's weird. Also, in the original movie, this school they brought all of the Disney characters together at this school. But this is before that happens, and it's still Merlin's school. So you're like, what is this school? Because these characters, like some of them are kings and princes and wizards and stuff, and they're like learning magic. But also Cinderella goes to this school, and she's just like a commoner. So you're like, this school just doesn't make sense anymore as a thing to exist. So then they're like, we got to figure out who pranked your mom so we can stop them from pranking your mom, because it seems like they established that getting pranked was what turned her evil. And I'm kind of like, yeah, Cinderella pranked her mom. Like, That was pretty clearly what was being implied, if not outright said, when they fought at the beginning of the movie. But apparently the characters don't know that yet, so it's supposed to be a twist that it was Cinderella. They show the bully characters. Oh yeah, Ulama, that's her name. They're like, this is the school bully, and it looks like it's gonna be Ursula. And they're like, Ulama, Ursula's sister. Which, if you've seen the second Little Mermaid, like, that's the character they made up because they killed Ursula in the first one. So, deep pull on that one, that they added Ursula's sister into this universe. Ursula's sister and the Queen of Hearts get in an altercation, and Ursula's sister gets, like, embarrassed by random shenanigans that occur. And she's like, I will have my revenge. And then she runs off, and they're like, I guess we know who's gonna do the prank then. It's gonna be Ursula's sister, even though we know that that's a debate. Also, when they're introducing the bully characters, they have Captain Hook as one of them, and we saw Captain Hook's descendant earlier in the series, and his character was kind of like always being very flirty in people's faces, but almost in like a mocking way, where they're like, he's like trying to take the piss out of them. Captain Hook is exactly the same. They're just the same character. They didn't change that at all. That annoyed me. So then they're like, let's follow the bully characters and try and see if we can figure out what their plan's gonna be. But at the beginning of the movie, when the Red Queen and Cinderella were fighting, and she was talking about getting pranked, she was like, I was turned into a horrible monster by magic. That was the prank. Like, she mentions that. So I don't know why they're like, we gotta figure out what the prank is gonna be, because like they already said what the prank was gonna be. But they do so anyways, so they follow the bully characters to their lair, and they're like, we're gonna prank her by turning her into a monster. And it's like, okay, thank you, like, for saying that again. So we're gonna have to steal the cookbook that has the potion to do that. So now our characters are like, we gotta stop them from getting the cookbook. So they go to Cinderella's place, and Cinderella's living in this big estate, and Cinderella's daughter's like, wow, I didn't know my mom grew up in a big estate. When they go there, the stepmother's there, and then they accidentally break a vase, and they get really mad at them and really evil because she's the evil stepmother. And then she's like, I'm sorry, it's my fault. And then she's like, sorry doesn't get me a new vase. Cinderella, you're grounded for months. Also, when they knocked over Cinderella's vase by accident, it's like clearly the most deliberate, on purpose knocking ever. Like, the actor just like didn't sell it at all. I love that. That's very funny. After she leaves, they're like, wow, I didn't know my mom had such an evil stepmother. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, how do you consistently not know anything about Cinderella? You're Cinderella's daughter. Like, she never mentioned she had an evil stepmother. Like, it's just so weird that she just fully doesn't know that Cinderella is her mom. Like, none of this should be coming as any shock to you. And it's not like no one in this universe knows who Cinderella is, because in the earlier movies, they make a joke where they're like, you're getting worked to the bone, it's the old Cinderella treatment. So clearly people know, like, that Cinderella's a thing. So why is her daughter like, oh, what? You're telling me? Cinderella's daughter? That Cinderella had a stepmother who was evil? That's news to me. Bizarre character arc. You're wearing glass slippers, Cinderella's daughter, and she's like, I got them from my mom as a gift for being so nice and good. And then Cinderella's like, if you need a reward for being good, are you really being good? And it's like, yeah, I think so. It's not like she did it for a reward. She just got it as a gift from her mom. Like, and then throughout this movie, they try and do this thing where they're like, you're such a princess. Like, they try and make like a problem that she has these boots. Like, she's privileged or something. But like, it's fine for her to have nice boots. Like, I don't understand what the problem is supposed to be. It's kind of like in the second movie when the main character Mel had this spell book, and they spent the whole movie being like, you should really get rid of your spell book, but they never explained why. They basically do that again where they're like, you should get rid of your glass slippers. And the glass slippers look awful. Like, they do not look like glass slippers. They look like someone took slippers and like a Bejeweled Bedazzler gun and just like bedazzled their shoes. And we're like, there we go, there's the glass slippers. So then they're like, I'm so sorry you got grounded, Cinderella. That's not fair. And then Cinderella's like,
Life isn't fair.
Just leave.
and you're like, oh, okay. And then she's like, sorry doesn't get me ungrounded. So it's just like uncomfortably awkward after that point. So they leave, and then I guess that's setting up Cinderella's villain arc. So they go to the Queen of Hearts. Her daughter's kind of mentioning like, yeah, I had a really tough mom and she was really mean to and always disappointed me. And then she's like, well, if you were my daughter, I would love you so much, which is ironic. And then they're looking at her stuff and they're like, oh, is this the looking glass from Into the Looking Glass? And she's like, yeah, you can see the future with that, but I never use it because I don't like looking into the future. So they look into the future, and I thought they were going to look at that dance, because that dance is supposed to be when their mom gets pranked, and also it's when Cinderella does the Cinderella thing. But no, they look all the way into the future, 30 years from when they left, to see if like anything's changed. And then Prince Charming's like crying, and he's like, how could this happen? And you're supposed to think it's because Cinderella's getting executed, but instead it just shows that she broke the glass slippers, and he's like, the slippers, no! So that's stupid. Then we go back to the present, and her mom's like listening to music on her headphones and dancing and stuff, and it's like, what fucking time period is this? Like, we were in a medieval castle with Merlin, like, we have modern technology, it's so weird. The timeline of these movies are so weird, and I thought because they were introducing time travel, they were going to finally explain why characters like Cruella de Vil are in the same timeline as characters like Cinderella. But no, they just skipped that opportunity, so that's kind of sad. And speaking of skipped opportunities, we never go back to Wonderland or meet any other character from Wonderland. So the Cheshire Cat's just fully not in this movie, and I have no idea why you would introduce Wonderland and then not have any of those characters be in the movie, other than the Mad Hatter. So that's lame as hell. But moving on, they're like, we need this cookbook, Queen of Hearts, do you know where it is? And she's like, yeah, it's in Merlin's office. So they gotta break into Merlin's office. And then Red's like, I'm gonna go break into Merlin's office. And Cinderella's daughter Chloe is like, that's bad. Breaking into places is bad. And then Red's like, well, maybe I'm bad then. And she walks off. And then Cinderella's daughter goes and finds Cinderella, and she's like, I think my friend is doing something bad, but I don't know if I should help her because she has good reasoning. Cinderella's like, you seem to be a deontologist, so let's have a music number where I explain that whether or not something is good or bad depends on the circumstance, the actual details of what's happening, and it's not black and white. And then they have a song, and then Cinderella's daughter's like, oh, the morality of a situation is dependent on the circumstance? That changes everything. I'm gonna go help Red now. So she goes and meets up with Red, and they break into Merlin's office, and they're like, this is enchanted with a bunch of protections, so we gotta be warned. Some statues of owls come to life, and they're like sending an alarm, and some swords get animated and start attacking. So this is like our first big action time waster scene. And they're like, we gotta steal the book before the bullies get here and steal the book. That way they can't use the book to prank my mom, because they think it's gonna be the bullies that prank her. And then there's a scene where one of the owls is gonna fly away and alert Merlin that someone's breaking in. And Cinderella's daughter Chloe's like, I gotta throw something at the owl to hit it so it will break and not fly away. But what's within arm's reach that I have that I can throw right now conveniently? Oh, I know. The shoes that I'm wearing. Let me just take 10 minutes to take off my shoes and then throw my shoes, because this is my only option of anything it could possibly throw is my shoes. So she throws her shoes at it and it breaks. And they're like, wow, you throw your shoes that you liked. And she's like, it was time to get rid of the shoes. And it's like, no, but okay, we can pretend that's a character arc. And then right when Red's about to get the book, it gets knocked over and thrown, and it's right as the bullies come in and they get the book, and they're like, thank you for getting the book for us. The bullies open the book, and then they get frozen by magic. And then Chloe's like, I thought that was going to happen because Merlin mentioned something earlier that implied that was going to happen. If you open the book and you're evil, it'll freeze you. So then you're kind of like, okay, so if you think the bullies pranked your mom in the original timeline, but opening the book froze them, then how did they manage to prank her mom in the original timeline? So that just doesn't make sense. So the heroes get the book, and they're like, okay, Red, open the book. We can open it now and look at it and stuff. And she's like, why am I going to open it? I'm evil. It'll freeze me. And she's like, no, Red, your character arc in this movie is we learned that you aren't evil. And she opens the book and it's fine. And she's like, I'm really not evil. And it's like, we established this character in the first scene in the movie as resisting her mom and then not sentencing that guy to death and stuff. Like, she's a freedom fighter. Like, when was it ever a question that she was evil? because she mildly taunted Chloe once. So bizarre, we got gaslit into believing she was evil. And then there's this other scene too where they're like fighting over what they should do about getting
Your
the
idea
book
is to
and
steal,
stuff.
and your
earlier
plan
in
is
the
to go
movie.
tell the
She's
teacher?
like, my
You're
mom
such a
Cinderella
goody-goody.
wouldn't have done
I'd
that.
rather be a
And
goody
she's
goody
like,
than a bad person. You sound like your mom. Thank you. And how'd that work out for her?
she's getting executed. And then Cinderella's like, too far! And she's all sad and angry. And it's like, Jesus, like, touchy? I guess that's just established that she's evil because she said that, but it's like, it was not a bad thing to say, like, it's fine. Also, why did they even open that book? Their whole plan was just get the book, that way the bullies can't use it to prank your mom. So why did we have this scene where they had to be like, let's open the book? Like, you don't need the book. It's fine. So they go back to their dorm with the book, and they're like, okay, well, I guess the dance is in a couple days where your mom's gonna get pranked. And they're like, well, we can just go back to the present now, because we got the book, so she can't get pranked because they don't have the book. And you think that maybe they'll use the time seeing the future device to like check to see if that worked? No, they don't. The looking glass is not used again. And they're just like, yeah, I guess we just don't have to go to that dance that was set up to be a big thing where Cinderella does her thing and my mom has things happen and it's really plot relevant. We can just leave because we have the book. So they go back to the present. It's the opening scene again where Uma's giving a little speech to welcome them and her mom's about to take over. But then instead this time she does a little magic show and it's fine. And she's like, yay, my daughter, I love you. And like, wow, she's good now. Like, we fixed the timeline, we fixed everything. And you're kind of like, okay, what's gonna happen here? And then Chloe's like, wait, where's my mom? And you're like, okay, here's the scene. It's gonna turn out Cinderella's the one that's evil now. It's all gonna make sense. Then Cinderella walks up and she's like, hi. And then they're like, yay, and they hug. And that's the movie. And you're like, what? The movie ended? Huh? Like, we're still... Where was the climax? That they just got the book and they're like, oh, guess that's that. And then that was that. They just fully ran out of things to have happen and just ended the movie. So, yeah, the problem with this movie is not the lazy world building of the series had before. It's fully that they just forgot how to write an actual movie. And they just ended it halfway through. I guess that scene where they broke into Merlin's office was supposed to be the climax. Because I thought it was like the first action time waster scene. But no, I guess them opening up the book and throwing their shoes was supposed to be like the culmination of their character arc, even though it had zero relevance to the plot getting moved. So they didn't even go to that dance that they set up. Like, why did you spend that much time setting up the dance if you weren't gonna go? And you're like, wait a second, so if there's no twist Cinderella villain, the villain, when she said those things at the beginning of the movie that implied that it was Cinderella, I just misread that, I guess it was never meant to imply that. It's very weird. And then that scene when Cinderella was like, life's not fair, and it was really uncomfortable, that was just a weird scene. Didn't mean anything, I guess. And then when the bullies got the book and got frozen by the magic of the book. Yeah, what they do in the past just fully did not affect the future in any tangible way. Everything that would have happened if they didn't go in the past. If they hadn't gone in the past, the bully characters would have tried to prank the Queen of Hearts, gotten the spell book, gotten frozen. Like, why did they go back in time? It didn't change anything. Why did them coming back from going back in time give us a new timeline where she wasn't evil anymore? And the most insane thing, I almost forgot this, what makes the first three movies so fun is that they're just discriminating against a whole group of people on this island for no reason. But this movie, they tried to justify why they were getting discriminated against as them being like hostile power. But when they go back in time to the beginning of the movie, they're still getting enrolled in the school, and her mom's like, it's time for your first year at school. So apparently they were still getting discriminated against for being from Wonderland, even though they weren't evil anymore. So just fully they were getting discriminated against for no reason, yet again. It feels like they wrote the story that I thought it was how it was gonna go, and then they were just like, fuck it, we're done. No twist villain, we're too tired. Fully insane. Just, it's like the ending of Indiana Jones where the Nazis got melted. If after that, they were like, we gotta go back in time and prevent the Nazis from getting the Ark. Like, no you don't. No you don't. Doesn't make any sense. Very insane. Also, I gotta wonder if the only character they had from the original series is Uma, and Uma was supposed to protect the school, and Cinderella going back in time, or her daughter going back in time, didn't change anything. Why is Cinderella's daughter even a character? Why didn't Uma go back in time? Because the only thing Cinderella learns when she goes back in time is, or Cinderella's daughter, the only thing she learns when she goes back in time is just that Cinderella is Cinderella, and it's like, that's an insane thing to have her learn. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So why don't you just write that character out of the movie and just have Ursula's daughter go back in time with Red? Because then one of them wants to stop their mom, and the other one wants to save the school, and it makes sense. Because the only motivation of Cinderella's daughter throughout this movie is just, she's like, well, we happen to be at the wrong time at the wrong place, and now my mom's in trouble, so guess we've got to fix this. Like, it's such an impersonal motivation. And also we had Ursula's sister as a character, as the villain, so you could just make that Ursula. Like, there's nothing stopping you from just having it be Ursula, and then Uma will have a personal stake in this story. Like, she was right there. Why didn't they write it like that? But my guess is that because Uma's only in like 3 scenes, maybe she was like, yeah, it's Descendants 4. If I'm coming back, I'm gonna be on set for 3 days, and that's it. And they're like, shit, I guess write it so Uma's only in 3 scenes, and then we'll just write in a different character with blue hair to go on this adventure. That's the only explanation. Then, right when you think the movie's over, Uma turns to camera and goes,
"Oh, what a sweet, happy ending. Everybody got what they wanted. But getting what you want can be dangerous, especially when you mess with the fabric of time." You didn't think that was the end of the story, did you?
and you're like, oh shit, I was wrong. Here's the twist. And credits. Movie's done. What the fuck? Why did she say that? She made me think there's a twist that's gonna happen, but they just fully were like, no, never mind. I guess this is to set up like a sequel where time travel shenanigans is gonna happen, but I can't imagine that's happening at this point because this movie's getting like worse reviews than any of the other movies, which were already bad. Also, the songs were not good in this one. Most of them were pretty just generic pop music, but yeah, that first song was really atrociously bad. So there's no way this is getting a sequel. This would normally be where I end the review, but instead, plot twist. Why would Cinderella's evil stepmother send her daughter's servant to magic school with kings and princes and wizards and sea witch? Like, what? Like, I know that the evil stepmother was trying to set up her actual daughters with the prince, so it would make sense if she sent them to that school. But she fully does not want Cinderella to end up with the princes and wants her to just work forever. So why would you send her to magic school? Like,